and no one on this panel is arguing that they should. So I don't...
Well, no one on this panel is arguing cartoonists should be killed either.
But the intention matters. And the intention, when it comes to the people that we're talking about in relation to cartoons, is part of the problem. And not just of the individuals who do it, but you will not find a cleric, I would imagine, in Britain or America, who would approve, for instance, or not fail to condemn such a killing. I think you find it very hard to. It is for some of us about the free speech debate in relation to Islam, one of the most troubling things is not just the very small minority who would carry out acts of violence, but the larger number of people, albeit still a minority maybe, although a majority of certain clerics, who do not go out of their way, as they should, I think, to condemn such behaviour. Can I just pick up on one thing that Timothy said, which is in relation also to the, it comes back to the point about, that was raised about the trickle-down effect of freedom of speech, because somebody mentioned, and they made mention, how this stuff, you know, we talk about this here, I may say something offensive here to Muslims, but how does this feel, as it were, if it trickles down in society? People who will do bad things, they might interpret it as it were, a license to say something horrible and objectionable to a vulnerable Muslim child. The truth is, you cannot police this process. Because once you decide there are things that cannot be said because a thug or an unpleasant person of any variety is going to pick it up and mistreat it, you go in a very bad direction. There are quite enough stupid bigots in the world who are willing to interpret anything as incitement to violence. But do you really want to start saying that our laws on freedom of speech for everyone will be decided by these people? I don't think they can be. And the final thing on this, when it comes to offence and to being offended on this is sadly something we simply have to deal with. Every day in my adult life, I feel offence. I feel offence when I open the Guardian. I feel offence when I open the New Statesman. I feel offence when I turn on the television. I feel offence when I walk down the street. I feel offence when I see stupid people. I feel offence when I meet very sensitive people. I have all sorts of things, a wide range of things in a day that offend me. But I do not believe that the way to stop that is for me or anyone who agrees with me to legislate that offence away. I said this when I reviewed Kenan Malik's pretty good book on the Fatwa al-Jihad about this, when a member of the Muslim Council of Britain, Najat Badlawala, said about the Rushdie case. He said, I didn't understand, he said, genuinely, as a teenager in North England, I didn't understand with satanic verses why we were being singled out. And one of the tragedies that came across in that book is that nobody seems to have got it through to Najat Badlawala in the meantime, that the satanic verses was not a singling out of Muslims. It was treating Muslims in exactly the same way as every other group in society are treated, which is to say, you will have, in a free, pluralistic, multicultural society, you will have your opinions trodden upon, including your deepest opinions, on a fairly regular basis.
But if I to offend people on the basis of their race,
I wouldn't like to have laws that stop that.
We do.
Let me finish this point. If I may just finish this point, is that we have to be much better in society at explaining also to people who come to our society recently that having the right to be offended is one of the most fundamental rights we have, and that a society in which even your deepest, most deeply held convictions are trodden upon regularly are the only societies worth living.
While I agree with you, Douglas, with your views on notice and the Pentagon and those things, I think you make a step when you say truth and then you say, in my opinion, that's true.
Well, I was trying to be more polite.
Yes, no, I appreciate that, but it was still an opinion I thought not true.
Anybody else want to just say something? Because I very much. Okay, you, then you.
Well, just in the interest of not confirming Saeed's point, it's worth stating that the main Muslim organisations in the UK continuously publish press releases stating their condemnation of terrorist attacks and all sorts of attacks, including the ones on the cartoonists in Denmark. And the fact that someone like Douglas, who actually, seems to focus primarily on the Muslim community, doesn't seem to be aware of these or refute or seems to ignore. They are actually happening, but none of you are hearing about it, and that's the issue.
Can I pick up that very quickly?
No, you can't. I want to get the
Your
other
free
people
speech is being denied.
I've just become a bit confused now about what offence is and what it means to be offended. Like walking down the street and being offended, I just don't understand how that compares to being offended. Like, and I just want clarification.
Anybody else just want to? Does anybody else want their hand? Okay. Quickly.
Quickly, Holocaust denial, Timothy, he could have gone on to mention, I'm sure, is that the moment the Holocaust denial laws suddenly passed here, clerics and people like Ahmadinejad in Iran always said, look, there are holy things in Europe they cannot say. How come they are allowed to cartoon the Prophet Muhammad, but they ban things? You see, they have holy things as well. It's a terrible, terrible rod for free society bans. Secondly, the MCB, Muslim Council of Britain, one of the most senior members, Dawud Abdullah, signed the Istanbul Declaration that calls open attacks on anyone who supports or has ships in the area outside Gaza in helping the international blockade. That, I think, is a serious thing for one of the heads of the biggest umbrella organisation that was in the UK to do.
You support the Israeli illegal bombing of Lebanon, so I mean this is ridiculous. Now you're getting political view.
Well, no, because no, it's not relevant at all. We can have that debate back about it, and I wouldn't expect you to agree with me on that, but I also wouldn't expect anyone to pass laws against it. But this comes on to one of the other things, is that if you start to pass laws, this is one of the reasons I think there's a problem with the race hate laws as well. Not because I think that people should go around saying racist things about each other, of course not. But I have to say, I'm not sure that it does make racists behave any better. I personally feel that if somebody is a racist, I'd rather I knew the fact. I'd rather that I knew what they thought about me.
Yes.
No, hang on. Okay, let's try it another way. This ties in with what the lady here. This is what the lady here said about walking down the street. Look, I've used this example many times, but let me give it to you fast. Very fast. If you're a gay man like me and you walk down the streets of Britain hand in hand with your boyfriend, there are about 3 streets in Britain you will not get abused. I can guarantee it. It's much worse than a lot of the abuse that people talk about routinely as being offensive. Now, let me pick up on this. I don't think that people who shout certain things at me should be criminalised. And if they're bigoted homophobes, I want to know they are. And I'd much rather live in a society where I knew that than I cut them over and they hid behind me.
I want to bring in you, and then you.
Well, my point quickly is that when he calls you offence, can we hear someone else speak?
I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed that the entire debate is about Muslims and Islam, because in sensitivity, I do think there are huge issues, as the UN has pointed out, about libel laws. The Culture Select Committee has just published a report today about the balance all being wrong in our libel laws. That rich people could come here and shut up novelists, journalists, editors. We don't hear anything about that. These are huge issues, anti-terror laws, locking up people on the basis of what they say. For example, in Luton recently, no matter how abusive. These are huge issues, and we don't talk about them. Instead, we talk about Muslims. And while I accept Timothy's point, that, and perhaps I'm happy to apologise or rephrase if you thought I was understating. Not at all. It's disgusting that Muslims threaten non-Muslims with violence, but at the same time, it's also disgusting that there is an entire cadre of journalists, columnists, who abuse Islam and Muslim every day freely without any death threats whatsoever, without any threats to their career, let alone death threats. And I just think we have to get everything in proportion. We have to get offence in proportion. This idea, you made the point of walking down the street, I think this is absurd, and to use your phrase, trite, to say that you're offended by what you read in The Guardian, and compare that to how Muslims felt about the cartoons and their attack on their Prophet, who Muslims regard as more important. I love the Prophet more than I love my own 2-year-old child. You'll never understand that. I don't expect you to, that's fine. But to compare the two is nonsense, and it is trite, because the only valid point you've made tonight is that you as a gay man get homophobic abuse. And you're right, and you shouldn't. And the idea that you get it from The Guardian or the New Statesman is absurd. So this idea that you're offended by that, that's the only point you can make a legitimate point of. You cannot tell me that I don't mind racism. Sorry.
You have deeper feelings.
Yes, I do. On racism, I do have deeper feelings with Douglas. You're white, I'm brown, I'm the minority, we're the ones who suffer racism. I'm fed up of people telling me, it's fine to be racist. I want to hear what a racist is. I don't. Yes, you did. You said, I want to hear if someone is a racist. You said, those are your words.
Know if they're racist.
Yes, well, I don't. I'd rather they keep their racist views to themselves. I'm glad we live in a Britain now where racist people do keep their views to themselves, apart from the racists and the BNP who use religion as a cover, and that's a real problem, even if the religious law is not the right thing to do. There are huge problems in our society. It makes no sense, and it's you who are being dishonest to say it's all about Islam and Muslims.